as a whole, organization as a whole, just sticking together, having each other's backs, and, just battling through adversity together.
Welcome back to the State of Basketball edition of the Enough Said program. My name's Dan Barreiro, joined as always by Justin Gaard and Lori Fisher, who has almost overnight become she says, dedicated
superfan,
Minnesota Timberwolves superfan.
I am. I can now name everybody, and I know what they're doing, and I know all about the other teams, or I try to, and I'm just, I'm taking it one day at a time, Dan.
And in Lori fashion, she knows the names of all the players' children. That's what she's done.
I mean,
which is kind of creepy, but also nice, I guess.
I can't help it. It's just too cute.
Could you recognize Kevin Garnett?
Yes, I think I could
do
that because we're about the same age, grew up with him, covered him. Well, I didn't grow up with him, but...
That'd be a hell of
we
a
understood.
Okay.
We understood.
They did it. Wolves in 5. The team beat the Golden State Warriors, clinching the Western Conference semifinals, and are now headed to the Western Conference Finals. Dan.
Well, I was thinking, and I'm glad you started with the Julius Randle soundbite. If you're the grand architect of this team, Tim Connelly, the president of basketball operations, I don't know how you're not beaming after, especially Game 5. Because when you made the big trade that everybody had an opinion on, and that was daring and controversial, you traded away a main player from a team that got to the conference finals a year ago, Karl Anthony Towns. You get 2 players back, and in your vision, I can't imagine it could have gone any better for the clinching game to get you back to the conference finals than it did the other night. Randall, who's been tremendous almost from the start of the postseason, gave you everything that I think you could have envisioned, right? Scoring, rebounding, assisting, an aggression, playing with force throughout it. And finally, the other guy in the deal, Dante DiVincenzo, who had been struggling, probably had his best game where he was just active, right? 13 points, 6 assists, 4 steals, guarding, very much involved. And it makes it a hell of a lot easier, I would say, to forget about Karl Anthony Towns, who was a very important part of this team. So it seemed as if we saw the culmination of what the vision might have been at the beginning when he made the deal, when Tim Connelly took that chance. We saw it play out, and it's largely, especially at least with the Randall piece of it, a huge reason why the Wolves were able to dispatch of the Warriors as easily as they did.
Well, go back a couple steps in the vision. Rudy having big moments in the Lakers series and this series. Mike Conley, who I think forget we acquired via trade, right?
That's right.
With Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who wasn't very good in the Lakers series, I thought was much better here against the Warriors. Seems like every big move and every little move that he's done here the last few years has put them in this position. And the Randall one is the most fascinating. What's their record now? 30-6, I think, since he came back from that injury. 30-6 with Julius Randle in the lineup. No matter who you're playing in the NBA, that's ridiculous. And I've gone, Dan, from, as you know, not the biggest Julius Randle fan in the world, going, are they going to get rid of him at the deadline? Probably not. Are they going to get rid of him this summer? Now it's probably not. Now the conversation with Randle is, are they going to have to lose him because they can't afford him and Naz Reid and other guys that they want to pay? It's crazy, the transformation. You hear national people that have followed the career of Randle much longer than a lot of us here, and they say they can't believe the difference in the player that he's become. He's become, to me, I think, indispensable. And for me, it's just like the vibe and the attitude that he brings. DiVincenzo, same thing. And we've talked 4 minutes on the Timberwolves, and we haven't even brought up Anthony Edwards, right?
30.
Who had good moments in the Lakers series, was a little bit up and down, but at different points in this last series really asserted themselves. As the Wolves did what we said last week, they absolutely had to do
with
Steph Curry out.
Right.
They had no excuses to not win the series. And to their credit, it wasn't always clean, it wasn't always pretty, but for the most part, it was workmanlike. And now we wait for the Western Conference Finals.
And let's remember, going back to the grand architect, Tim Connelly, again, of this whole operation, his other team that he built, a championship team, they won it after he left, but it was largely the team he put together. They've got a shot to match up against the Wolves again. They are also in it. So for a team that over the course of its history has had a lot of issues and a lot of embarrassments, they finally do have in place, if they can keep it, vision at the top, stability and leadership when it comes to the president of basketball operations. And we should not take that for in any place. We should, especially here, we should not take that for granted, given all the buffoons we have tended to have in that spot, including a former sports writer named David Kahn, who was once the general manager of the team.
Sticking with the Wolves.
Enough said, by the way, there.
DiVincenzo's little boy's name is Kai, by the way.
Okay.
13-month-old, pretty cute. And then Julius Randle, I don't know his kid's name.
I think
but
he also
I know he
has
three
a Kai.
really cute kids.
I think
he has a Kai too.
I think.
It's a popular name. My nephew's name is Kai.
There's a Caden.
It's a good one.
They just had a daughter. I'm sure you saw that too.
Yep.
Yeah.
With the Denver Nuggets tying up the series with Oklahoma City Thunder, we still don't know, though, who the Wolves were going to play next. We will find that out after the Sunday night's game, and then the series begins Tuesday. Our home games 3 and 4, next Saturday and Monday, Dan.
Well, as Justin and I have talked about a lot on the radio, the cool thing, maybe the scary thing, the intoxicating thing, is that with the way these playoffs have played out, I honestly believe this in my heart. The Wolves have as good a chance to win an NBA title as any of the other entrants that are still in it. Now, I'm kind of assuming Boston's dead. Boston technically is not yet. They might be after tonight, but their best player is out, and that's tough to sustain greatness the longer you play without them. And so that's the rarefied air here about this situation, is that it feels like, whether it was planned this way or whether this is the Wolves at their peak, this group coming together, they have an opportunity right now to say, well, let's not stop.
Right.
Let's keep going with this thing. Oklahoma City was clearly the best team in basketball through much of the season, far and away. But they're not a great offensive team, and they haven't really been through it. So you have that weakness there. Denver, the Wolves have dominated. I think Denver would be formidable again. I really do.
They're a different team than they were in the regular season.
Yep. But and then on the other end, you got Cat potentially, and the Knicks and the Pacers. They're all, I think, interesting, good teams. But believe me, there is an opportunity right now to run the table and actually. It's hard for me to say it out loud.
It's crazy.
To say you have at least a chance to end up hoisting the trophy.
Well, we did this a little bit a year ago because the same conversations were being had after the Wolves not even beat the Nuggets in 7 games. Remember, after the first 2 games of that series, when they crushed them out in Denver, games 1 and 2, Rudy was suspended for the second game, I think, if we recall, or didn't play the second game. We were having these same conversations. I think the team was watching and listening and consuming the content, as the kids would like to say. We're going to see this round, Dan, I think. How much does that experience, going through that a year ago? Remember, they had home court advantage in the Western Conference Finals a year ago. Games 1 and 2 were at Target Center, and Luka and the Mavs came in as a decided underdog and ripped their hearts out. Do they learn from that situation? I think in a way you can say that they have, because they didn't mess around with Golden State. They saw the opportunity. As Lori mentioned, there's a Game 7 this weekend in this other series, and it has been a bloodbath in that series, right? Back and forth, bunch of travel, overtime games, 48-minute games, the whole bit. The Wolves using the fact that they're done in 5 games to their advantage to get some rest, get Anthony Edwards' ankle feeling good. That should help them. We'll see how much last year's experience helps them this year.
One other quick thing, and we'll have time to get to this depending on who they're playing next week, I'm sure. But Dallas had 2 killers.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City does not. They have one great killer in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but their second scorer is up and down.
He's not played well recently.
And has not played well recently, which is why I think that may open the door. But as you say, you still got to play it.
Yep.
And you still have to get tighter, by the way, in not giving up the ball as much as the Wolves did in that game.
Dan, do you think I would ever say 11 in a row for the Twins? They are in 11 in a row winning streak. Last year, they were 7-13 and then won 12 straight. So they're on their way, back-to-back seasons doing that. Even with Byron Buxton, unfortunately, and Carlos Correa hitting heads in the outfield, that video was tough to watch. Yeah. Both guys in concussion protocol. They take on the Brewers this weekend in Milwaukee, a game you can watch Saturday night here on Fox 9, Justin.
What's the record of Fox 9 games? Have you
undefeated,
updated
right?
that?
Undefeated.
For every game, or just the ones where you're on site field producing and taking 5,000
Well, I am
photos?
producing tomorrow's show, our Twins weekend show at 5:30, and then I will be at the game on Monday night. So TC Bear, I will be texting you soon with my seating and where my seats are.
TC Bear alone. Poor TC Bear is just trying to do his job.
Okay, let's move on.
I think the last TC Bear resigned, just tired of being stalked by Lori Fisher.
Would it surprise you?
No,
it wouldn't. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago when we said the time is now to do something, because Pablo Lopez was coming back?
Yeah.
I think Royce Lewis was coming back.
Thank you.
Yep, we always screw that name up. And it said this is the time to go. Buxton's playing well. Correa had started hitting a little bit better. And apparently they listened and they also agreed. And obviously they've taken advantage of some weaker parts in their schedule with Baltimore, with the always there for you White Sox. But to sweep the Giants in this stretch at home here at Target Field, I think last weekend or earlier this week, that's a nice little feather in the cap. It isn't just, they're getting fat on bad teams. They are beating more substantial teams. The pitching, as we said 2 weeks ago, has been really solid. Chris Paddock was good again on Thursday. Now, of course, it's baseball. Weird things happen. Buxton and Correa both get hurt. We'll see how long that they're out. But that you at least see some signs that they can make this thing interesting. And unfortunately for them at this point, I think 4 of the top 6 best records in the American League right now are in the American League Central. So they've had this great run, but they really haven't been able to make up any ground in the division.
Yeah, that's where I was going. I mean, I think it's 3 of the top 4 records as well.
There you go.
Are in the division. And so generally in this division over the years,
yeah,
you win 12 in a row or 10 in a row at any point, you're in first place.
You're resting your starters.
Almost automatically. And in this case, they're still 4th, right?
Yes.
They're one of 4 teams with above 500 records in the division. And I kind of like that. I did see did you see the Star Tribune headline? I got a kick out of this. Here's how, I'm reading it verbatim.
Okay.
If twins are close, Polads need to go all in. And
I did see that.
I started laughing about 3 words in the way you did.
Yeah.
I said, oh, God bless you, man. That headline writer, I don't know if that's a sense of humor or satirical or whatever the case may be, because I think we would all agree to that, but I'm not sure anybody at this point will be holding their breath.
Is
no
that
matter
where you
how
read
long
it?
the winning streak
Because
is.
do you still get the broadsheet you do for
I
Sunday,
do not.
I think?
Yeah,
Okay, because
not anymore.
I'm thinking about you look at the broadsheet paper and go, what year is this from? Did I save this from 2012, 13, 14, 15, or 16? I think we've said pretty much the same thing for about 20 years.
Welcome back to Enough Said. The Vikings making history as the first NFL team to play back-to-back games in 2 countries overseas. So the Vikings have 8 home games, 7 on the road, and then those 2 international games. First game against the Bears, home opener against the Falcons. Then they take on the Steelers in Dublin in the first ever NFL game in Ireland. And then the following Sunday, they're just going to stay there because then they go to London to face the Browns. And then Christmas Day, I'll just keep going here against the Detroit Lions. I need a full screen. I need a graphic.
You need to scroll.
But now that we know the schedule, what is our predictions of how the season might go down?
Well, I don't have, I did a quick game by game when Justin gave me the schedule the other day. I'm not really sure I'm going to stick. I think I said 13-4.
You did say 13-4.
Optimistic for me. Maybe that was my guilt from underplaying them, underselling them from a year ago. But I do think their early schedule, it's interesting because Kevin Seifert, who's on with us from ESPN, thought they're running the gauntlet early for the kid quarterback. I look at the schedule early, and it says Bears, now that's there, right? Atlanta, Cincinnati, and then Pittsburgh and Cleveland are the 2 Europe games, right? So I look at that and I go, well, yeah, you're not playing those teams, then I don't think they're going to be, Cleveland's going to be that good.
Right.
Pittsburgh's beatable, and you don't even have to play them in their houses. So I actually think the first part of the schedule gives them a chance to get off to a good start. I understand Cincy's good, but I think there's an opportunity there. But we all know, I mean, it may take the kid quarterback a minute or two. And I actually think the schedule gets a little tougher after that, where if they don't hit the ground running, then I think they might get behind the 8 ball a little bit and be spending most of the year trying to play catch-up.
Yeah, then
in a good division, again, like the AL Central in baseball.
Yeah, I agree. That last year, this is how much we know everything. Remember, last year we were talking about how difficult the schedule was. The first 6 games, we were saying if they don't beat the Giants, they might start 0-6. I think they started 6-0. I'm pretty sure. At least 5-0, right? They went through the first month and didn't really have many issues. So I agree with you, though. That is... It's weird because you're starting an unknown at quarterback, and so there's going to be that probably learning curve that you're going to have to go through. But as you go forward, you've got the Eagles, defending Super Bowl champs. You've got the Commanders. They were in the title game a year ago, right? Things do get a little trickier, and I'm curious how that international swing is going to go. It was interesting to kind of hear rumblings that the Vikings kind of pushed for the back-to-back bit. Like it wasn't like the NFL's making us do this. We want to embrace it. We want to try it because you're essentially moving your whole operation, not just for a week or even in some cases 4 or 5 days. You're going to be there basically 2 full weeks or at least a week and a half. So I'm interested how they come out of that. They get a bye coming out of that. But
30.
The schedule sets up for them to start quickly like they did a year ago. But you don't want it. We saw even a couple of years ago, we thought that in Cousins last year, the Vikings did not, if you remember correctly, start fast. That included a season opening loss to Tampa Bay at home. So they can really set themselves up if JJ has his act together right away.
Well, it is part of the reason even the Bears, who were the last place team, they got one of the hardest schedules, is largely because the division was so good a year ago. Now, will it be as good? I think it might be.
Enough said.
I don't think the Bears are going to be great, but I do think there's a chance they're going to be better. And
see what happens with the Lions.
The Lions are interesting. With
who they end the
coaches
season playing?
Lost.
The Packers.
They sure do.
That's true.
The Lynx kick off their regular season tonight, playing the Dallas Wings. It just so happens to be Paige Becker's day in Hopkins. They changed the city's name just for her.
I drove through Paige Becker's city today.
Did you? I'll have video in a second here. The Hopkins grad is on the Wings. The Lynx home opener is Wednesday against the Wings. Again, Justin.
They can't, I don't think with a straight face, say nobody believes in us when it comes to people that are actually in the league, the GMs. The big athletic survey just came out. I think it was the Athletic. And they're picked as the favorite to win the WNBA championship. Now, how much of that is guilt about how the season ended a year ago with the commissioner of the league wearing a New York skyline dress to award the trophy to the New York Liberty and the missed travel call and everything that came with it? Where they do, Dan, still I think have a gripe is if you watch any coverage of the WNBA nationally, you will not hear about the Minnesota Lynx. You will hear about Caitlin Clark, which I all think we understand why. You will hear about the Liberty. You will hear about Vegas. Might you hear a little bit more about Nafisa Collier now that she just inked an endorsement deal with the Jordan brand, which I think is obviously a nice feather in her cap. So they'll still find their bulletin board material, but I think expectations internally, externally, all over for this team are to be right back where they ended up a year ago.
We all, I think, now appreciate how good a player Collier is.
Yes.
Terrific player.
Two sides, too.
Exactly.
Offense, defense.
I would say now that the objective is there a second? I mean, beyond that, their balance helped them. But can they develop? Is there a second player who can kind of become the second star, so to speak? That's, to me, the open question. And they lost a player right before the season started, right? Who I don't think was supposed to be a main player, but that necessarily wasn't. I don't think Cheryl Reeve appreciated that news based on her reaction. So they're playing with the chip on. They do have the legitimate chip on the shoulder for the way they felt like they got jobbed by the officials.
Right,
that's what they can do in terms of their edge.
Justin, is this what you saw today? Take it away, Chris.
I did see that. Yeah. I definitely saw that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
We're in the state of basketball, Lori.
We are.
I know. Okay, moving on. Pete Rose, who passed away last fall, can now potentially be elected to the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. He was banned for life for betting on the sport 36 years ago. Some other deceased players are declared eligible as well now, Dan.
I've talked too much about this. You start on this one, Justin. What's your view on the whole deal?
Well, I don't know exactly what my view. I mean, to bring Shoeless Joe into the mix, 100 some years after the Black Sox scandal is a little interesting for me. On the Rose deal, what I don't understand is the people that are he always should have been in. It was always a travesty. I don't agree with that at all. There were so many opportunities for him to make this right. I think we're a pretty forgiving society. I mean, you look around now, like Alex Rodriguez is now back in baseball, right? A guy who cheated with the steroids, didn't admit it forever, then finally admitted it. He's on big national broadcasts, including here on Fox. He's part of the game, right? He's back in the game. Will he ever be in the Hall of Fame? I don't know. We'll see. It seems like things are softening a little bit on the steroid era guys. We're all talking about Roger Clemens because his kid's on the Twins, and he's at every game, and he's going through the AL East tour and hitting home runs where his dad used to play. Pete Rose never made amends until I think, if memory serves, he wanted to sell a book, right? Because he needed some money and then said, you know what, I did do that. I think we're a forgiving society. I think sports are even doubly forgiving, and he just never chose that road. So I don't really feel bad that he's not in it. I'm sure he probably will get in it now, but the people slamming their hands on the desk and going, it always should have been this way, to me is a little precious.
The hardest part is that there are a number of other people who've more sincerely attempted to make amends on his behalf than the player himself.
Right.
And that's why it's hard for me to have that much sympathy all along. And the idea now, well, there's betting everywhere. We're kind of frauds on this. Well, that has nothing to do with what was taking place then, because the world was different then.
And they're still kicking people out that's true. Bet on sports.
That's right.
There's all kinds of suspensions for that.
And then finally, Qatar officials gifted President Trump a $400 million plane that he could use as a newer Air Force One. Trump says he could save taxpayers money, but critics say it's unethical and unconstitutional, Dan.
Well, the remarkable thing about this is, first of all, I think they would take this plane and then have to refurbish parts of
Yes.
it. It would end up costing $1 billion.
Yes.
And that it might not be done until he's out of office. That
Yes.
is, unless he decides to run for that third term. The best part of this story for a lot of people is the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. She said, look, I've vetted this story. There is absolutely no conflict of interest, and pay no attention to the fact that until not very recently, or until a while ago, I was paid something like $115,000 a month by the government of Qatar
Right.
to do the lobbying. And so when it comes to draining the swamp, it feels more like this is just sort of adding to the pond scum to me.
Well, here's what I'll say. You laid it all out there. Even if he gets this plane, he's never going to fly this plane because of what they have to do
Exactly.
with the plane. It's going to be in the museum. Are we all
How about the security ramifications?
Well, that's it. And that's the one place where some Republicans are pushing back,
Yes.
right? They're not saying this is unethical. They're saying, well, there might be some listening devices on here or something that we need to pay attention to. He's never going to fly this plane. He has no intention of flying this plane, in my opinion. I'd watch what else is going on this trip. The Trump Tower is being built in Qatar. I'd watch his
New golf course.
Enough said.
His son-in-law, who is getting billions of dollars from these governments for his hedge fund. That's what we should be paying attention to. The plane, to me, is just this distraction that's never going to fly the president.
We're
Drain
going
the
to see
swamp.
what we can. We're going to see what we can still fit in the end of the show coming up next.
Okay.
A very short lightning round. The Minnesota Frost is going back to the PWHL Finals. They won in OT Wednesday night against Toronto, Justin.
This team is fascinating because they struggle mightily during the regular season. They have to do everything that they can to just find their way into the postseason. Last year, they squeak in, they win the title. This year, they're in another great position after needing like 7 things the final week of the season to happen to get in. They're giving the state of hockey at least something to cheer about because we know the team that shares the building with them, Minnesota Wild, haven't
Next
done
up,
as much.
production is underway for the Madden movie. Nicolas Cage as Raiders coach and legend broadcaster John Madden, and Christian Bale as the team owner Al Davis. No release date yet, but look at those two.
That's quite
quite
a
a
combo
tandem.
right there for sure.
Yeah.
This is
that why the prices went up for Netflix the last couple of years? We had to pay those too?
probably true. This could be, I mean, for the kids who don't know much about the Madden story,
Right.
A lot of us lived through it and even covered some of it. It's a great idea.
It is.
I hope it sort
And
of
kids do know because
introduces the youngsters.
during this show, I got a picture, and I'm going to put a
Whoa.
bigger photo on. This is my nephew, Tyson. He's in elementary school, and he is John Madden right now. He had to write a paper and dress up like him.
Good timing.
Like,
Look at Tyson.
I know. We'll have a better.
Serendipitous.
I'll get something up there. And then finally, streaming at Max. They're rebranding again, going back to HBO Max this summer. People just miss that HBO, I guess.
This is hilarious
I had
to
no
me.
idea.
Well, because at the time, they made this big change, and like, who are those marketing people? HBO is one of the iconic media brands, is it not? You know, going back to the 70s and 80s.
But you always got to stay a step ahead.
I know.
That's what these folks, that's
I
what
know.
they live for.
This is why when you bring consultants into your business,
Yeah.
be weary. Sometimes just keep what you have. Because now
Enough
they're
said.
going back, HBO Max.
I had to buy Max just to watch my Wolves.
My
Now listen to you.
Enough said.
Unbelievable.